members of the council, officers of the council, ladies and gentlemen. Please be upstanding for his worship, the Mayor of Nuneaton and Bedworth, Councillor Jeff Clark, JP.
Good evening, everyone. Can you all hear me okay? Because I've had problems previously with the microphones. Everybody okay? Welcome to this meeting of the extraordinary meeting of the Council held on the 12th of January 2023. It's the first one of the full Council of the year. Can I wish everyone a Happy New Year? I have no announcements as such. But we'll move on to the evacuation procedure. It's as set out in the agenda, but just for public's information, there are no expected fire drills this evening. Should the alarm go off, please exit the building via the two entrances at the front or the green entrance at the rear. The location for, if there is a fire exit, is outside Virgin Money opposite the front of the building. If anybody needs any assistance, please indicate to an officer that you will need that assistance if it should go off. Item 2, apologies. I've received apologies from Councillors Cooper, Councillors Downs, Chivekovic, Councillor Neil Phillips. Are there any other apologies to be declared? Councillor Shepherd.
Councillor Tracy Shepherd, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Tracy Shepherd as well to be added. No other apologies at present time. Those are all accepted. Moving on to item 3, declarations of interest. Can I receive any declarations of interest that are not otherwise declared on page 5 of the agenda? I'm sure if members realise that as we go through and they need to declare, they will do. Thank you. There are no announcements today. I have no announcements. Leader, you have no announcements either. So the only thing I would say to the members of the public is that this meeting is recorded. I'd ask you all to be as respectful to each other as possible, both the members and the public, when asking your questions and receiving the responses. Thank you. So we move on to public participation. I have one question which I've received from Mr. Sam Margrave, who has submitted a question. Mr. Margrave, did you wish to ask your question?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and a Happy New Year to you all. Staff at the council work incredibly hard, and over recent years they've seen their workloads increase massively. For local people, that has meant cuts or a reduction in services, the town hall not being open, planning applications delayed, people waiting longer for the council to deal with issues that matter to them, and the council entirely withdrawing from Bedworth, shutting the area office, civic hall and now toilets. Despite the leader of the council previously criticising the council for having secret meetings, as leader he has likely had more secret meetings than there ever was under any previous administration in the past decade. Because the item on reorganisation is in secret, local people who you are here to serve can't have a say. We don't know why the management changes are happening, if it's to provide a better service or because of financial pressures caused by councillors pushing the council on the brink of bankruptcy. Every member of staff at MBBC, from bin men and bin women to the chief executive, deliver council services we all rely on. So without breaking any confidentiality, which may be on pink paper, can you tell the public tonight what management changes you are proposing and the reason for restructuring the management team? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Margrave. Councillor Wilson, did you wish to respond?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Myself and Councillor Golby have switched positions. It isn't a change in leadership. I would like to point on record before some smart aleck from the gallery decides to make any comments. It's just for ease of accessibility tonight. So, Mr Mayor, as a former councillor, Mr Margrave should have a greater knowledge of the workings of a council than most people do. So I think it's only fair that he is held to a higher standard than an ordinary member of the public. He persists in his warped interpretation of the situation to suit his own ends. It is a complete fabrication to suggest that all Cabinet members are doing is holding meetings in secret. As he well knows, any and all formal decisions have been made in public meetings. Indeed, he's spoken at all of them, either Cabinet or Council, unless there is a specific legal reason as set out in the Local Government Act 1972. These are usually where there are commercial sensitivities, where wider publicational knowledge would undermine the Council's ability to conduct negotiations without one hand tied behind our backs. This could prejudice our position financially or enable tenderers access to information that would enable them to submit bids that would not comply with a truly competitive process or get us best value. As in the case tonight, it deals with the employment matters of individual employees of this council. I would assume that Mr Margrave would not like his own personal contract of employment, if indeed he has one, discussed in front of any random person. These are highly personal matters to an individual, i.e. our employees, Mr Mayor. But having said all this, ex-councillor Margrave knows this. When he was a councillor, he has been in meetings, indeed I think he was sat around there, where we have had the exact same thing has happened in the past, and he has put his hand up in favour of a confidential meeting on several occasions, all without objection. Without breaching the confidential nature of the upcoming item, the restructure will focus on modernising our senior management structure to make it fit for purpose and ensure that we are focused on service delivery. This is not a cost-cutting exercise. But what isn't a secret is that local government faces financial challenges. It has always done so, including during ex-councillor Margrave's terms of office. We are not, repeat, not, on the brink of bankruptcy. His attempts to do so are a shallow attempt at scaremongering local residents to fit in with his own twisted narrative of this council. And doing so is also deeply unfair to the hard-working officers of this council who are doing their best to deliver services through unprecedented and challenging financial times. We have experienced the shocks of COVID and now the global inflationary pressures that have deeply affected local government finance. Nuneaton and Bedworth is not immune to this. The legal method for a council to effectively declare bankruptcy is through a Section 114 notice. I discussed this with the statutory Section 151 officer last night, in fact, who is far better qualified than either Mr Margrave or indeed myself to determine whether we are indeed on the brink of bankruptcy. I am happy to report that she has confirmed that we are not at risk of a Section 114 notice or bankruptcy. Indeed, I was also told last night, Mr Mayor, that there is a report which was put together with SIPFA and Grant Thornton, which examined council finances, and they announced 60 councils which are at risk of being unable to meet their financial commitments. And Nuneaton and Bedworth is not on that list. And we are not at risk of this because it is this Conservative administration that is stepping up to the plate, taking the difficult decisions that he and his former Labour colleagues didn't have the backbone to make, taking the necessary actions to put this council on a sound financial footing, not just for today, but for the future too. Because of this, we will remain solvent.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. There are no other questions been submitted, so we will, at this point, we need to move on to item 6 in relation to exclusion of public and press. Councillor Wilson, did you wish to come in there?
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. I will move the recommendation as printed for the reasons I stated in my response to Mr Margrave.
Does that receive a seconder? Oh, thank you, Councillor Golby. So we need to take a vote on that Oops, sorry. Councillor Condacall, wish to speak.
Happy New Year, Mr Mayor. Just as a matter of good practice, we should really adjourn this meeting and take the public meeting, the one they can attend first, and then take this management restructuring second. So I ask you to consider adjourning this meeting. And secondly, we should, and it's quite often done at the County Council, when we have got confidential information, there was actually a version of it produced which was non-confidential, obviously not mentioning the names of who might be affected by restructuring, but the general principles. And we don't do that here as well. So I'm not happy about the whole thing being in confidential. I think half it should be. And quite often at the county, say they have the general principles, and then they'll discuss, yeah, maybe particularly members of staff in the confidential session. So I do ask we consider, A, can we actually hold the public meeting about the Civic Hall first, so that these people don't have to go home and come back again, or sit in the cold room? And secondly, can we actually have a hybrid meeting in future when we have these confidential items, so actually the public have a better idea what's going on, but we still...
I'll hear your point of order once he's finished speaking, Councillor Wilson. It isn't a debate, no, it's not
So-
for debate. It's just a case of whether we... So you put in a proposal.
It's procedurally asking whether we can defer the meeting and have the meeting in the other order, and whether we can actually have a short meeting in public before going into private. Thank you.
Is it just yourself proposing that, Councillor Condacall? Okay. That's not seconded, so we don't need to consider that. Oh, there is a seconder. Right, so all those in... Councillor Condacall, the items on pink paper cannot be discussed in open session anyway. And in relation to your other question and query, i.e. should the meeting be changed round with the following meeting, they've been taken in the order that they were received in, and that's what we're carrying on with. Councillor Condacall?
Mr Mayor, my proposal was to adjourn this meeting, hold the other meeting, and then restart this meeting. So they would start in the order they were proposed.
Okay, thank you. So the proposal to adjourn the meeting, it's down to me, is it? Or is it to take a vote on it? It's down to the members to decide upon. So that proposal to adjourn the meeting, to bring the other one forward, I'll take a vote on that. Those in favour of that recommendation? 5. Those against? So 6 there were. That's lost. So the recommendation was lost. We would then move on to the exclusion as proposed. I'll take a vote on that proposal that we exclude public and press for the remainder of this meeting. All those in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? That's carried. So at this point, we need to exclude all the public and press, and I'd ask you to leave at this point. There is tea and coffee available in committee.